To be a professional sports videographer, you need to be able to shoot, edit, and tell a good story. However, there's one tangible skill that sets the best apart from the rest. That skill is called ball tracking. Let's get into some tips on how you can improve your ball tracking. So ball tracking is essentially just following the flight of the ball of whatever sport you're filming in. So for football, it's when the quarterback throws the ball to the receiver. In soccer, when they shoot, following the ball into the goal. Basketball, from the shot to in the net. So it's basically just moving your camera with the flight of the ball. However, it's not as simple as that. I'm not gonna act like this is easy. It's arguably the hardest part about filming any sport. There's so many different factors that go into it, and I still mess it up sometimes to this day. You need to first anticipate where the ball is gonna be going. This can be extremely difficult when you're looking at the action through a small monitor. Then you need to move quickly enough to get the ball in frame, which is also very difficult when you're zoomed in, especially with how fast the balls are moving at the college and pro level. Then you need to properly pull focus as the ball comes towards you or away from you. And finally, you need to be able to move the camera smoothly without any shake with the flight of the ball. So clearly there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm going to share some tips that can help you guys get better ball tracks. So first of all, some of you guys are not going to like this, and I definitely didn't like this when I first started out, but you have to shoot in manual focus. Doing manual focus gives you much more control over where you want your focus to be. So instead of moving my camera so that the ball is in the center of the frame where the autofocus point is, I can just worry about getting the ball in frame, and then I know that my focus will be what I want it to be. And there's some other advantages of manual focus as well. If for some reason you do miss focus, it's not as bad because it'll normally just be slightly soft. Whereas if you miss autofocus, it's going to be hunting back and forth and looks very amateur. And then finally, during most ball tracks, you normally need to zoom and focus at the same time. Anytime you zoom with autofocus, it's going to lose and look terrible. Whereas I can zoom out and focus at the same time with one hand, and this just gives you much more control over the entire image. You can get an extended focus ring for your camera. Go to followfocusgears.com. This basically just adds a little extra width to your lens. It makes it less sensitive to the focus movements. You can also look into getting a follow focus. I have one from Tilta. This just gives you further control. Obviously, if you want to get a cinema lens and you have the budget for it, this is going to provide you a lot more control over the focus. So overall, this first tip is just you need to start doing manual focus and practicing. It's not going to be pretty at first, but I promise you the more you practice, you'll get good very soon. Secondly, you need to get a stabilizer of some sort, especially for field sports. I highly recommend getting a hi-hat with a fluid head tripod head. I have the one that I use linked below. However, a monopod, tripod, or shoulder mount will work as well. It is just vital that your footage is stable and smooth for you to get a good ball track. It's going to be very difficult to smoothly track the ball at 200 millimeters in football. An exception to this is for basketball or other indoor sports. I normally shoot those handheld just because I'm normally shooting between 24 and 70 millimeters. This normally can look pretty sturdy when I'm not using a stabilizer, but if you're filming primarily soccer, football, baseball, sports like that, definitely look into getting some sort of stabilizer. It will greatly help your ball tracks. And then third, you really need to understand the sport you're filming. So for football, I'm going to be looking at the quarterback's eyes, knowing who his main targets are for the receivers, and then anticipating where they're going to be. So if I know that he likes to throw to number 33, I'm going to see where he is on the field and then look at the quarterback's eyes. And as he brings his arm back, I'm getting ready to move my camera with that motion. Similarly in soccer, if they're on the edge of the box and I see someone running down the wing, I know that they're likely going to play a through ball to them and then cross it back into the box. So I'm just always trying to think a step ahead and getting ready to make these movements ahead of time so that I'm prepared. However, obviously sometimes you'll mess up and anticipate the wrong thing, but that's just part of it. I actually missed a shot this past weekend. It was like a 60-yard free kick and I was just not expecting him to shoot it, so I was not ready to move with the ball. You know, I learned from that experience and I was able to get the next goal, but the point here is that you should do some research ahead of time, figure out who the best players are, figure out where the ball is most likely to go, and then try to anticipate ahead of time where the ball is going to be so that you're prepared. And then next, this is kind of cheating, but I always recommend shooting a little wider than you think. This has a couple advantages. First of all, most of our stuff now is for social media anyways, so we're going to be cropping into a 4x5 or 9x16 format. Additionally, shooting wider just gives you some extra safety in post, especially if you're shooting in 4K. It'll be much easier to keep the ball in frame if I'm slightly more zoomed out, and then if I want to in post, I can zoom back in. And then the final tip I have is to always position yourself so that the action is coming towards you. So I always want the quarterback to be throwing towards me, the goals coming towards me, etc. This just makes for a much more interesting shot because no one wants to see action going away from them. We want to feel more part of the game. So having that come towards me is great. This means it is slightly harder for ball tracking. So you just need to really lock in on those last steps that I shared. But that's basically it. I hope this video helped. I know it was a quick one, but I do think that this is the one skill that can really separate you from being good to being great. Let me know if you have any questions. I know I haven't been posting as consistently as I'd like to, but I'm definitely going to be back posting consistently soon. Let me know if you guys have any specific videos you want or if you have any questions in the comments, but thank you guys for watching.